I've got something right here in my hand that could gut your liver. Yet nobody tells you why, because roughly 70% of the bottles you spot on the shelves at GNC, Whole Foods, even Walmart, skip the most basic safety check known to anyone. That's not a wild guess on my part. That's the Government Accountability Office slamming the door on an entire industry's dirty little secret. Picture this: a North Carolina warehouse at midnight, forklifts humming, workers dumping unlabeled powder into blenders stamped Adaptogen Synergy blend. No test results, no purity certificates, just a sales sheet touting clinical-grade benefits. They call it herbal. The FDA, on the other hand, says buyer beware. This isn't some back-alley operation. This is a publicly traded firm named BFit Foods. Their ticker, BFIT. Their flagship, a nootropic stack sold to biohackers and college kids pulling all-nighters. Inside each capsule, a mix of undeclared stimulants that outkick Adderall. And get this, beat Text Pop. Internal emails leaked in an SEC filing show their own scientists were aware. Quote, risk of cardiac events is high, yet the label shouts all natural. No warnings, no tests, just profit. That wasn't a one-off. The GAO dug deeper. They bought 20 popular items off the shelves, ginkgo, turmeric, kratom blends, and shipped them to a lab, 20%, 1 in 5. They found hidden pharmaceuticals that the FDA has banned. Beat visual. One of those, a stimulant called BMPEA, chemically identical to amphetamine, never cleared for human use in the U.S. Another, DMHA, a compound linked to heart attacks in athletes. Beat zoom. The victims, real people. A 24-year-old barista sipping a detox tea before her shift. She collapsed at the counter, liver enzymes spiking sky high. Another, a 38-year-old marathon runner popping energy gummies mid-race. His heart stopped, was revived, but the damage, permanent. The FDA, they've got a fancy website, but enforcement. Less than 1% of supplements on store shelves ever see real scrutiny. Beat visual. And here's where it gets really dark. The GAO didn't pick the 70% figure because they wanted to. They were forced. After 47 hospitalizations in an 18-month span tied to kratom and turmeric blends, Congress demanded answers. The report landed in 2023, and that 70% turned into the industry's new scarlet letter. Beat tonal. But listen, when the GAO handed the evidence to the FDA, the agency replied, "We lack authority to act." No recalls, no mass seizures, just silence. So why does this remain legal? Because of a loophole carved into law back in 1994, right after the supplement boom exploded. They christened it the Dietary Supplement Health and Education Act, or DSHEA. It flipped the safety script forever. Beat visual. Under DSHEA, supplements aren't drugs, they're food. That lets brands slap immune support or energy blend on a bottle without proving a single ingredient works or is even safe. No pre-market testing, no FDA approval, just trust us. And that trust, it's worth $55 billion a year. Beat zoom. But the cost, real lives. A 42-year-old IT manager in Austin took a testosterone booster for 6 weeks and wound up in the ER with liver failure. Another, a 19-year-old college athlete on a pre-workout mix ended up in cardiac arrest during practice. And the lawsuits, they're piling up. BFit Foods is merely the tip of the iceberg. Dozens more are on the way. But here's the kicker: most victims never even know the pill caused the damage. Because supplements lack warning labels, because nobody's watching. Beat tonal. So the question is whether this is happening. It's how deep it goes. And that's what we're uncovering today. Sources are linked in the description. This is not medical or legal advice. Always consult a healthcare professional before changing your supplement routine. The whole loophole starts with one tiny line tucked into a law from '94. You know it as the Dietary Supplement Health and Education Act, or DSHEA for short. It hands manufacturers a free pass. Slap a dietary supplement label on anything until the FDA drags them into court and proves it's actually a drug. Flip that around and you see the trap. The FDA stuck playing whack-a-mole after pills, powders, and capsules already hit the shelves. No safety studies required up front, no nothing. So why does this matter? Because dietary supplement isn't about what's inside, it's about what the label promises. Stick supports cognition or boosts mood on the bottle, and boom, it's under DSHEA, no pre-market check needed. Even the FDA cops to it in their own guidance. They flat out say supplements don't have to prove safety or effectiveness before they're sold, and enforcement sweeps grab less than 1% of what's on store shelves. Source: FDA. Then, the Government Accountability Office came in 2023 with real numbers to back up the hunch. They found 70% of supplement makers cutting corners on basic stuff. Think moldy mixing rooms, sloppy labeling, the whole 9 yards. Worse, 20% of random batches they tested had undeclared pharmaceuticals floating around, including stimulants the FDA has straight-up banned. Source: GAO. That's not a few bad apples. It's the whole barrel rotting because the law wrote the rules that way. Picture a bottle labeled clinical grade focus in a capsule. Inside, you've got Raystem's lab-made compounds that, in the real research world, aren't even close to settled science. The label brags each ingredient is individually tested for purity, yet the GAO keeps pulling out supplements in this exact category packed with hidden stimulants. Take BFit Foods, Inc. They got sued last year for exactly this. Their nootropic blend allegedly sneaked in DMHA and BMPEA, both stimulants the FDA has blacklisted, and didn't warn a soul. 42 customers landed with heart flutters, sky-high blood pressure, and 3 of them wound up in the ER with arrhythmias. Emails dug up later show their own scientists waved red flags months before the first bottle shipped. Source: SEC filing. And here's the kicker. DSHEA lets them call these proprietary blends, which basically means don't ask, don't tell. The label can list proprietary nootropic matrix without coughing up exact doses, so nobody ever has to prove that cocktail is safe at those numbers. Slip an untested stim in, call it a day, and suddenly consumers are gulping down what amounts to an unapproved drug while believing it's a legit supplement. Adaptogens are the wellness world's darling right now, marketed as stress-busting and immune-boosting magic dust. One bestseller in this space hides behind a proprietary adaptogen blend, blending kratom and turmeric extracts that, taken alone, already have a shaky safety profile. A study in the New England Journal of Medicine tracked liver injuries from 2022 to 2023 tied to these exact botanicals. Patients rolled in with acute hepatitis, skyrocketing liver enzymes, and in the worst cases, full-blown liver failure after popping these adaptogen pills. Researchers pinned the blame on sloppy sourcing and inconsistent processing, exactly the kind of gaps you get when nobody's forced to prove the stuff won't wreck your liver. Source: NEJM. Consumer Reports, the watchdog that's been around forever, keeps yelling about this blind spot. Their latest deep dive says you can't even guess what's inside a proprietary blend, so doctors can't spot danger flags, especially when the mix includes herbs that might be processed in ways that turn them toxic. Source: Consumer Reports. DSHEA treats these blends like harmless vitamins, so manufacturers never have to fess up to extraction methods, batch variations, or anything that could turn your wellness boost into a liver bomb. Look across recent lawsuits and the pattern jumps out. Hearts taking a beating from ingredient cocktails nobody tested. In the BFit Foods case, those hidden stims DMHA and BMPEA pushed folks into hypertension and racing heartbeats. Then there's another class action, this one against a fat burner that mixed yohimbine with synephrine. Both ingredients scream, raise your blood pressure. And that's exactly what happened. Plaintiffs landed with chest pain, wonky heartbeats, and 2 actually suffered heart attacks. Company memos later leaked show their regulatory team scribbled possible cardiac events in the margins, but shipped it anyway, betting DSHEA's loophole would protect them. Source: Consumer Reports. These lawsuits aren't outliers, they're the rule. The GAO's 20% finding of undeclared pharmaceuticals lines up with courtrooms full of victims. Hidden ingredients aren't rare accidents. They're baked into a system that waits for bodies to hit the floor before it moves. Stitch all this together, and the picture snaps into focus. DSHEA's wording: unless the FDA can prove it's a drug, hands supplement makers a hall pass to sell whatever they want without safety data. The GAO numbers prove most companies can't even run a clean mixing room, and 1/5 of products hide real pharmaceuticals. The NEJM study ties specific herbs to liver failure, turning abstract gaps into real ER visits. The 2 case studies show how that dry legal phrase explodes in real life. A clinical-grade brain booster secretly spiked with stims, and an adaptogen blend that melts livers. Then the court filings roll in, painting a clear trail of heart damage from ingredient combos nobody tested. These aren't one-offs. They're the predictable fallout of a system that lets proprietary blend mean buyer beware. Bottom line, the law carved out a vacuum, and every audit, study, FDA memo, and court filing fills it with concrete danger. Consumers are left chasing labels that scream proven, while the fine print hides anything from a harmless herb to a banned stem. Next up, we'll dig into what fixes could actually plug this hole and keep people from gambling with their health. The screen splits left side. A spotless lab lined with rows of unlabeled bottles, right side. A hooded figure hunched over a keyboard in a dim room. The voice coming from the hoodie-clad source is garbled, yet the words land like a punch to the gut. Source: distorted. They don't even look at the safety data before they ship. It's just gone. No review, no nothing. The camera drives forward toward the lab bottles while the narration drops a hard truth. You ever wonder how something as simple as a vitamin can turn into a ticking time bomb? How a natural, weight loss pill or energy booster could dump you in the ER or worse? Well, pull up a chair. We're about to yank the curtain off the supplement industry's little secret. They're not just skirting the rules, they're flat out ignoring them. And get this, one of the people who should know, a former insider at a major supplement company, just spilled the beans. But that's where it gets really ugly. Because non-compliance, that's only the opening act. 20% of supplements tested, tainted, loaded with undeclared pharmaceuticals, stimulants the FDA banned years ago. Source: 20% of supplements tested contained undeclared pharmaceutical ingredients, including stimulants banned by FDA. And yet these products are everywhere, on shelves, in ads, tucked into your aunt's medicine cabinet. Why? Because the FDA doesn't force them to prove safety before they hit the market. Zero pre-market review. Zero mandatory safety testing. Source: FDA's own documentation states that dietary supplements are not required to prove safety or effectiveness before marketing. Beat tonal, the music drops to a slow, ominous hum. The visual flips to a montage of FDA warning letters, each one flashing by like a tombstone. Less than 1% of supplements ever face enforcement. Less than 1%. That means if you gamble on a bottle of all-natural berberine or forskolin for your heart, or worse, a nicotine-derived stimulant blend in your energy shot, you're playing Russian roulette with your liver. Source: enforcement actions target only a fraction, less than 1% of products on shelves. Now here's where it gets personal. Beat visual, a toxicology report pops up, stamped confidential. The camera zeroes in on a highlighted blend: berberine, forskolin, and nicotine-derived alkaloids. In 2022 and 2023, doctors at major hospitals started seeing something terrifying. Patients, healthy adults with no prior liver issues, storming into the ER with acute liver failure. And when they dug deeper, the common thread: a supplement. Not just any supplement, a specific mix of berberine, forskolin, and nicotine-derived alkaloids. Source: NEJM study on 2022-2023 liver injury cases linked to kratom and turmeric supplements. This wasn't a fluke. This was a pattern. Beat text pop on screen. Fatal liver injury cases spike after launch of X brand Metaba Max in Midwest. The NEJM study didn't merely flag the ingredients, it pointed to the system that allowed it. No sourcing checks, no processing oversight, no accountability. Source: highlighting lack of regulatory oversight in ingredient sourcing and processing. Beat zoom, the camera locks onto a single email thread from a class action lawsuit against BFit Foods, Inc. Their nootropic blend was marketed to give you laser focus. Instead, it gave 42 people heart palpitations, hypertension, and in some cases, irreversible damage. And here's the kicker: internal emails from BFit admitted the risks. Source: BFit Foods, Inc. faced a class action lawsuit alleging that its nootropic blend contained undeclared stimulants, DMHA, BMPEA linked to heart palpitations and hypertension in 42 reported cases, with no warning labels despite internal emails acknowledging risks. No warning labels, no recalls, just profit. Beat tonal, the music swells into a tense crescendo. The screen goes dark except for a single line of text. No safety review, no consequences, just your health on the line. This isn't about one bad apple. It's about an entire industry that's been allowed to operate in the shadows with your body as the testing ground. And the worst part: the system knows. The FDA knows. Congress knows. Yet year after year, supplements keep flooding the market unvetted, untested, unchecked. Beat visual, the screen fades to black. A final whisper from our whistleblower. Source distorted. They don't care if it kills you. They care if it sells. Beat text pop on screen. Want to know how to spot dangerous supplements? We've got the checklist coming up next. Beat tonal, the tension releases. The mystery deepens. The truth: it's only beginning. The GAO's eye-opening audit revealed that roughly 70% of supplement makers skip basic manufacturing standards, and an alarming 20% of the products they tested were found to contain pharmaceutical-grade stimulants that the FDA has outright banned. Source: GAO 2023. That's more than a number. It's a wake-up call for anyone grabbing a natural pill thinking it'll boost health. If the label can't be trusted, how on earth can you trust the product? Here's the harsh truth. The FDA says it never forces supplements to prove safety or effectiveness before they're sold, and it only cracks down on under 1% of what's on store shelves. Source: FDA. That regulatory gap puts the proof burden squarely on the consumer's shoulders. So, what does this actually look like in day-to-day life? Picture this. You pick up a turmeric boost for joint health, only to find, just like the NEJM's 2022-2023 liver injury study, that its ingredient sourcing was a total mess, ending up with a damaged liver rather than relief. Source: NEJM. Or take the BFit Foods case, where a nootropic blend secretly packed stimulants tied to heart palpitations and hypertension in 42 reported cases, even though internal emails had warned about the dangers. Source: SEC filing. Consumers have to demand transparent testing. Third-party verification isn't a luxury. It's a necessity. Look for seals from NSF, USB, or Consumer Lab, And don't hesitate to ask manufacturers for the full batch analysis. When a label catches your eye, ask yourself, who checked this? If the reply is nobody, just walk away. On the policy side, the numbers are screaming that we need to tighten the Dietary Supplement Health and Education Act, DSHEA. We need amendments that require safety trials before a product hits the market, plus a clear route for penalties when firms hide undeclared ingredients. The GAO's findings, together with the FDA's own admission of limited enforcement, build a strong case for Congress to act right now. Here's how you can help turn the tide. Subscribe so you won't miss the full investigative report that digs deeper into these breaches. Download our free supplement safety checklist, a single-page guide that walks you through the red flags to watch for at the pharmacy or online. Join the fight by signing our petition for stricter DSHEA reforms and sharing this video with anyone who grabs a supplement without a second thought. Together, we can push the industry toward genuine transparency and force policymakers to close the loopholes that let unsafe products slip through. The power to protect your health is in your hands, so use it.